The shuttle doors opened with a soft hiss, and Mira Chen stepped onto Station Varath 7 for the first time. She was 17 years old, 5 feet 4 inches tall, and completely alone. Around her, beings of every shape and size moved through the landing bay. Some had scales, some had fur, some floated on cushions of air. All of them were bigger than her. Mira gripped the strap of her bag and walked forward. She had worked her whole life for this moment. The Galactic Unity Academy was the most famous school in 12-star systems. Only the best students from each species were allowed to enter. Mira was one of only 3 humans ever admitted. Humanity had only made contact with the galactic community 5 years ago. In that short time, humans had earned a reputation. They were soft. They were weak. They came from a small planet on the edge of nowhere. Their bodies had no armor, no claws, no special powers. They lived short lives and broke easily. Most aliens thought of humans the same way humans thought of insects. Mira knew all of this. She did not care. She was here to prove them wrong. The academy was beautiful. Tall towers of crystal and metal rose toward the stars. Gardens filled with plants from 100 worlds lined the walkways. Students gathered in groups, talking and laughing in languages Mira's translator struggled to keep up with. She felt very small. Her room was simple: a bed, a desk, a window that looked out at the endless black of space. She unpacked her few belongings and sat on the bed. Tomorrow classes would begin. Tomorrow everything would change. The first week was hard. The Academy's classes were designed for species with natural advantages. In physical training, Mira faced opponents with 4 arms and armored skin. In mental exercises, she competed against beings who could read thoughts or calculate numbers faster than any computer. In survival simulations, she was placed in environments that would kill a human in minutes. She failed. Again and again, she failed. But she did not quit. Every night, Mira stayed up late studying. Every morning, she woke before the sun and practiced. She learned to use her small size as an advantage. She found ways to solve problems that did not require strength or speed. Slowly, her scores began to improve. Not everyone was happy about this. Vorth Callis noticed the human girl on the 3rd day. He was Thessian, one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. His family had produced academy champions for 6 generations. He stood 7 feet tall with blue-gray skin as hard as stone. 4 muscular arms hung at his sides. His eyes were black and cold, like the space between stars. Vorth believed in the natural order of things. Strong species ruled. Weak species served. Humans were barely worth noticing. Yet here was this tiny creature, walking the same halls as him, attending the same classes, acting like she belonged. It was insulting. At first, Vorth was subtle. He would walk past Mira in the hallway and knock her papers from her hands. He would make comments loud enough for her to hear about the smell of humans or the sound of their breathing. He would laugh with his friends whenever she struggled in class. Mira ignored him. She picked up her papers. She kept her eyes forward. She did not give him the reaction he wanted. This made Vorth angry. He was not used to being ignored. The harassment grew worse. Vorth began recruiting other students to join him. He told them stories about how humans were diseased, how they were dirty, how they had no place among civilized beings. Some students refused to listen, but many were afraid of Vorth's family and their power. They went along with his games. Mira found herself eating alone. She found doors closing in her face. She found her assignments mysteriously deleted from the Academy's computers. Still, she did not complain. She simply worked harder. One person noticed her struggle. Her name was Lys, and she was Quillari. The Quillari were small and fragile, with large eyes and thin limbs. They could feel the emotions of others. Lys felt Mira's loneliness like a cold wind. One day in the library, Lys sat down across from Mira. The human girl looked up with surprise. No one had voluntarily sat with her in weeks. "You are very strong," Lys said. Her voice was soft, like wind through leaves. Mira blinked. "I am the weakest person in this academy." "No," Lys said. "You are the strongest. I can feel what you carry. The loneliness, the doubt, the fear. Anyone else would have broken by now. But you keep going. That is true strength." For the first time since arriving at the academy, Mira smiled. They became friends. Liz helped Mira understand the social rules of the academy. Mira helped Liz with tactical simulations, something that Kalari found confusing. Together, they were less alone. Vorith noticed their friendship immediately, a human and a Kalari. Two weak species supporting each other. It was pathetic. It was also a new opportunity. He began targeting Liz as well. He spread rumors that the Quillari was sick, that her empathic abilities were unstable, that anyone who spent time with her would be infected. Liz tried to stay strong, but the Quillari were sensitive. The cruelty hurt her deeply. Mira watched her friends suffer and felt something growing inside her chest. It was hot and sharp. It was anger, but she pushed it down. Fighting Vorith would only make things worse. His family was too powerful. The academy would never punish him. The only winning move was to succeed so completely that his words would not matter. So Mira worked even harder. She studied tactics late into the night. She practiced combat forms until her muscles screamed. She memorized every rule, every law, every piece of history she could find. And something strange began to happen. In tactical simulations, Mira started winning, not just passing, winning. She defeated opponents twice her size and 3 times her strength. Her strategies were creative, unexpected, almost impossible to predict. The instructors began to notice. They began to talk. Vorith heard the whispers. He saw Mira's name climbing the rankings. He watched this tiny, soft, pathetic human succeeding in ways that should have been impossible. Something dark twisted in his heart. This was not just an insult anymore. This was a threat. If a human could succeed at the academy, then everything Vorith believed about the natural order was wrong. He could not allow that. He watched Mira from across the training hall. She was practicing alone, moving through combat forms with quiet determination. She had no idea what was coming. Vorith smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. The human thought she was strong. He would show her just how weak she really was. The training hall was empty except for Mira. Most students had gone to dinner, but she stayed behind to practice. Her body ached from the day's exercises, but she pushed through the pain. Pain was temporary, failure was not. She moved through a combat sequence, her movements sharp and precise. She had learned to fight in a way that used her opponent's strength against them. It was not elegant, but it worked. For a human, that was enough. The door behind her opened and closed. Heavy footsteps echoed through the hall. Mira did not turn around. She already knew who it was. Training alone again? Little human. Vorith's voice was cold and mocking. So dedicated, so determined. It is almost impressive. Mira finished her sequence and turned to face him. Vorith stood near the entrance with 3 of his friends behind him. They were all large, all armed with the confidence of those who had never faced real consequences. I am busy, Mira said calmly. If you want to talk, we can do it another time. Vorith laughed. It was an ugly sound. Talk? No, little human. I am done talking. I have watched you climb the rankings. I have heard the instructors praise your tactics. It is disgusting. He stepped closer. His forearms hung loose at his sides, but Mira could see the tension in his muscles. He was ready for violence. You do not belong here, Vorith continued. Your species is weak. Your planet is a joke. You should be cleaning floors, not sitting in classrooms with your betters. Mira kept her face neutral. The academy accepted me. I earned my place. You were a mistake, Vorith spat. A political gesture to make humans feel important. But I will correct that mistake, right now. He reached into his belt and pulled out a small device. It was silver and black, shaped like a cylinder with a glowing tip. Mira did not recognize it, but she felt a cold fear spreading through her stomach. Do you know what this is? Vorith asked. It is called a neural disruptor. It affects the nervous system directly. No marks, no evidence, just pain. Lots and lots of pain. Mira took a step back. The Academy has rules against weapons. Rules are for weak species, Vorith said. My family makes the rules. And no one will believe a human over a Thessian noble. He pressed a button on the device. The pain hit Mira like a wall of fire. Every nerve in her body screamed at once. She had never felt anything like it. She had broken bones before. She had been sick with fevers that made her wish for death. None of it compared to this. She fell to the ground, her body twisting and shaking. Sounds came from her throat that did not sound human. Tears streamed down her face. She could not think. She could not breathe. There was only pain. Vorith watched with satisfaction. "This is what you are," he said quietly. "This is what humans will always be. Weak, pathetic, crying on the floor where you belong." His friends laughed nervously. Even they seemed uncomfortable with what they were watching, but none of them moved to help. The doors of the training hall burst open. Instructor Thane Vorik stormed into the room like a force of nature. He was Corvani, a species known for their military discipline and honor. His body was covered in gray scales, and his eyes burned with cold fury. He had served 30 years in the Galactic Fleet before becoming an instructor. He had seen war. He had seen death. But he had never seen something so cowardly. "Drop it!" Thane roared. Vorith hesitated for just a moment. That was enough. Thane crossed the room in 3 steps and grabbed the neural disruptor from Vorith's hand. He crushed it in his fist like paper. "You are done," Thane said, his voice shaking with rage. "You are finished." Vorith tried to look calm. "She attacked me. I was defending myself. My friends will confirm." Thane looked at the 3 friends. They could not meet his eyes. One of them shook his head slowly. "I saw everything through the security feed," Thane said. "Every word, every action. You are not just finished at this academy, Vorith Callus. You are finished everywhere." He turned to Mira. She was still on the ground, but her body had stopped shaking. Her eyes were closed. She was not moving. Thane knelt beside her and checked her pulse. His face went pale. "Medical emergency," he shouted into his communicator. "Training Hall 7, human student, neural disruptor exposure. Get here now." The medical team arrived within minutes. They lifted Mira onto a stretcher and rushed her through the halls. Students stopped and stared. Whispers spread like fire through dry grass. In the medical bay, the doctors worked frantically. They connected Mira to machines that monitored her brain, her heart, her nervous system. The readings made no sense to them. "This is impossible," the lead doctor said. He was Valorian, a species known for their medical knowledge. "The neural disruptor should cause temporary pain, 30 minutes of discomfort at most, but her nervous system is in complete collapse." Instructor Thane stood by the door. "What does that mean?" The doctor's hands trembled. "Humans have significantly higher neural density than any species in our database. What would be painful for us is catastrophic for them. Her brain is overloaded. Her nerves are burning out. She is dying." Thane felt his stomach drop. "Can you save her?" "We do not understand human physiology well enough," the doctor admitted. "We are doing everything we can, but I will not lie to you. Her chances are very low, perhaps 15%. The room fell silent except for the beeping of machines. Mira lay on the table, small and still. Her skin was pale. Her breathing was shallow. She looked fragile, like glass about to shatter. Somewhere across the station, Vorith Callus sat in a holding cell. He was not worried. His family would send lawyers. They would make this go away. They always did. He did not understand what he had done. He did not understand that the galaxy was watching. He did not understand that humans do not simply accept when one of their own is hurt. Light years away, on a small blue planet called Earth, a message arrived at Unified Human Command. It contained medical data, security footage, and a single question from Instructor Thane Vorik. "Can you help?" The response came in less than 1 hour. "3 ships are already on the way. Hold on, we are coming." In her bed, Mira Chen dreamed of fire and darkness. She dreamed of voices calling her name. She dreamed of her mother's face and the smell of rain on summer grass. She was not ready to die, but her body was failing, her mind was fading, and no one on Station Vareth 7 knew how to save her. The damage was done. Now all anyone could do was wait and hope that hope was enough. The 3 human ships arrived at Station Vareth 7 exactly 6 hours after the message was sent. The station's sensors detected them first. Then the visual feeds picked them up. They were not warships. They carried no weapons that anyone could see. They were white and smooth, marked with red symbols that meant nothing to alien eyes. The station commander watched them approach with confusion. Humans were supposed to be primitive. Humans were supposed to be weak. Yet these ships had crossed the galaxy faster than should have been possible. They are medical vessels, his officer reported. They are requesting emergency docking clearance. Granted, the commander said. Let them through. The ships docked at the medical bay's emergency port. The doors opened and humans poured out. They wore white uniforms and carried equipment that glowed with soft light. They moved with purpose and speed, speaking to each other in quick, sharp words. Dr. Sarah Martinez led the team. She was 50 years old with gray hair and steady hands. She had worked in emergency medicine for 30 years. She had seen plagues, wars, and disasters. Nothing frightened her anymore. She walked into the medical bay and found the alien doctors standing around Mira's bed. They looked helpless. They looked lost. Status report, Sarah said. The Valorian doctor stumbled over his words. Neural cascade failure. Her nervous system is shutting down. We have tried everything we know, but human physiology is outside our expertise. We do not understand how her brain is structured. We do not know what chemicals her body needs. We are failing her. Sarah looked at the monitors. The readings were bad, very bad, but she had seen worse. Step aside, she said. We will take it from here. The human medical team moved like a machine with many parts. They connected new equipment to Mira's body. They injected tiny robots called nanites into her blood. They attached devices to her head that mapped her brain in real time. The alien doctors watched in silence. They did not understand what they were seeing. What are those machines? The Valorian asked. Neuroplastic regenerators, Sarah said without looking up. They encourage the brain to rebuild damaged pathways. We developed them after the Third Pacific War. The what? Sarah finally looked at him. Her eyes were tired but fierce. Humans have been hurting each other for 10,000 years. We have had wars that killed millions. We have had weapons that burned whole cities. We have had plagues that wiped out half our population. She turned back to her work. We did not survive by being strong. We survived by learning to heal. Every wound we inflicted on ourselves taught us something new. Every disaster made our medicine better. You think we are primitive because we do not have warships or conquest fleets? You do not understand that we spend all our energy learning to save lives instead of taking them. The Valorian doctor was silent. He had studied human history. He knew about their wars, but he had never thought of it this way. He had seen their violence as proof of their primitive nature. He had never considered what they had learned from it. For 3 days, the human medical team worked without rest. They rotated in shifts, but Dr. Martinez barely slept. She monitored Mira's vitals personally. She adjusted the nanite programs by hand. She talked to the unconscious girl like she could hear. Come on, Mira. Your brain is rebuilding itself. Your body is fighting. You just need to hold on a little longer. Instructor Thane visited every day. He stood at the door and watched in silence. He had contacted Human Command himself. He felt responsible for what had happened. He should have stopped Vorath sooner. He should have seen the danger. On the 3rd day, something changed. The monitors began beeping in a new pattern. Dr. Martinez looked at the readings and smiled for the first time since arriving. Her neural activity is increasing, she said. The damaged pathways are regenerating. But that is not the interesting part. Thane stepped closer. What do you mean? Sarah pointed to the brain map on the screen. When the human brain suffers trauma, it does not just heal. It adapts. It rewires itself. The pain she experienced triggered an ancient survival response. Her brain is not just recovering, it is improving. Thane did not understand. Improving how? Her neural processing speed has increased by approximately 40%, Sarah said. Her pattern recognition abilities have doubled. Her brain experienced something terrible, and it responded by making itself stronger. This is what humans do. We do not break, we grow. The Valorian doctor overheard this. His hands began to shake. That is impossible. No species can adapt that quickly. Biological change takes generations. For most species, yes, Sarah said. But humans evolved on a death world. Our planet tried to kill us every day. We faced predators, diseases, natural disasters, and each other. Those who could not adapt died. Those who survived passed their genes to their children. After 100,000 years of constant struggle, adaptation became part of who we are. She looked at Mira's peaceful face. You wanted to break her. Instead, you made her stronger. That is the human way. Word spread through the station quickly. The primitive humans had technology that surpassed anything in the galactic database. Their medicine could heal injuries that should have been fatal. Their patient was not just surviving, she was evolving. The galactic news networks picked up the story. Reporters from a dozen species arrived at Station Vareth 7. They wanted interviews. They wanted explanations. They wanted to understand how they had been so wrong about humanity. Instructor Thane gave them nothing. Instead, he focused on his investigation into Vorith Kalis. He discovered that the Thessian noble had a history of violence. 17 students from minor species had been disciplined by Vorith over the years. All of them had left the academy. 3 had died later from complications. Nothing had ever been done. Vorith's family was too powerful. His victims were too weak. The system had protected him. Thane decided to change that. He filed a formal request for a tribunal. This was the highest court in galactic law. It had not been used against a noble family in 200 years. The request sent shockwaves through the political establishment. Vorith's family responded with threats. They promised economic punishment for anyone who supported the tribunal. They called Thane a troublemaker. They called Mira a liar. But things had changed. The galaxy had seen the footage of the attack. They had seen the human doctors working to save a dying girl. They had seen courage and cruelty side by side, and they knew which one they admired. On the 11th day, Mira Chen opened her eyes. The first thing she saw was Dr. Martinez smiling down at her. The first thing she heard was the sound of her own heartbeat, strong and steady. "Welcome back," Sarah said softly. "You had us worried." Mira tried to speak. Her throat was dry, her voice rough. "How long?" 11 days. "But you're going to be fine. Better than fine, actually." Mira closed her eyes again. She could feel something different inside her head. Everything seemed clearer, sharper, faster. She did not understand it yet, but she would. She was not the same girl who had fallen in the training hall. She was something new, and she was not finished yet. The tribunal chamber was the largest room on Station Vareth 7. It was built in the shape of a circle, with seats rising in tiers all around. Representatives from every major species sat in their designated sections. Cameras floated through the air, broadcasting to billions of viewers across the galaxy. Mira stood at the center of the room. She wore simple clothes, a plain gray uniform with no decorations. Her hair was tied back from her face. She looked small, surrounded by all those powerful beings. But she did not look afraid. Vorith Kalis sat on the opposite side of the chamber with his legal team. His family had sent their best lawyers, creatures with sharp minds and sharper tongues. They had spent 2 weeks preparing their defense. They were confident they would win. The Chief Justice was a Morvalan, an ancient species known for their fairness. She had white scales and eyes that had seen 300 years of history. When she spoke, everyone listened. "This tribunal has been called to address the actions of Vorith Kalis against the human student Mira Chen," she announced. "The charges are assault with intent to cause permanent harm and abuse of noble privilege." How does the accused respond? Vorith's lead lawyer stood. He was tall and thin with a voice like silk. "The accused pleads not guilty. We will demonstrate that this incident was a misunderstanding. The human student provoked my client, and he responded with reasonable force. We will also show that humans, as a new and unknown species, cannot be held to the same standards as established galactic citizens." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The lawyer was clever. He was trying to make this about humanity's place in the galaxy, not about what Vorith had done. Instructor Thane stood as the primary witness. He presented the security footage. The chamber watched in silence as Vorith pulled out the neural disruptor. They watched Mira fall. They heard her screams. When the footage ended, no one spoke. "I have served in the Galactic Fleet for 30 years, Thane said. I have seen soldiers die in battle. I have seen prisoners tortured for information. But I have never seen anything as cruel as what Vorith Kalis did to that girl. He did not attack her because she threatened him. He attacked her because she was succeeding. He attacked her because her success made him feel small." Vorith's lawyers objected. They argued about context. They questioned the footage's authenticity. They brought up old cases where noble families had been granted mercy. The arguments went back and forth for hours. Mira sat and listened. She had not been called to speak yet. Finally, the Chief Justice raised her hand for silence. The tribunal has heard the evidence and the arguments. Before we deliberate, tradition allows the victim to address the chamber. Mira Chen, do you wish to speak? Mira stood. Her legs were steady. Her voice was clear. Yes, I would like to speak. She walked to the center of the room. Every camera turned toward her. Every eye focused on her small figure. She took a deep breath and began. When I came to this academy, I knew what everyone thought of humans. I heard the whispers. I saw the looks. Soft, weak, primitive. I did not come here to change those opinions. I came here to learn. She paused. Vorth Callus hurt me. He used a weapon designed to cause pain, and he used it on someone who could not fight back. That was cruel. But I did not ask for this tribunal because I want revenge. I asked for it because I want you to understand something about my people. She pressed a button on her wrist. A holographic display appeared above her head. Images began to flow across the screen. This is Earth. This is human history. The images showed war. Armies clashing on battlefields soaked with blood. Cities burning under clouds of smoke. Bodies piled in mass graves. The chamber watched in horror as humanity's violence played out before them. We have done terrible things to each other, Mira continued. We have killed millions. We have destroyed our own cities. We have invented weapons that could end all life on our planet. If you judge us by our worst moments, you would think we are monsters. She pressed another button. The images changed. Now they showed something different. Doctors working in ruined hospitals, strangers pulling survivors from collapsed buildings, hands reaching out to help those who had nothing, children laughing in playgrounds built on top of old battlefields. But this is also Earth. This is also human history. Every time we fell, we got back up. Every time we broke, we rebuilt. We did not survive because we were strong. We survived because we refused to give up. She turned to face Vorth directly. He would not meet her eyes. You thought you could break me. You thought pain would make me weak. But you do not understand what pain means to a human. Pain is our teacher. It shows us what we need to fix. It shows us where we need to grow. The night you attacked me, my brain was damaged beyond what your doctors could repair. But my people came. They healed me, and now I am stronger than I was before. She looked around the chamber. Her voice grew firm. I am not asking you to punish Vorth Callus because he hurt me. I am asking you to punish him because he represents something that should not exist in a civilized galaxy. He believes that strength gives him the right to harm those who are weaker. He believes that power means never facing consequences. That is not strength. That is cowardice. She took another breath. Humans are new to this galaxy. We have much to learn, but we also have something to offer. We know what it means to suffer. We know what it means to rise from suffering. We know that the measure of a species is not how they treat their equals, but how they treat those who cannot fight back. She lowered her hand. The holographic display faded. You can decide what happens to Vorth Callus, but whatever you decide, remember this. You cannot break what has already been broken 1,000 times and chose to stand again. That is what it means to be human. She walked back to her seat. The chamber was completely silent. The Chief Justice waited a long moment before speaking. The tribunal will now deliberate. The deliberation took less than 1 hour. Vorth Callus is found guilty of all charges. His noble status is revoked. His family's diplomatic immunity on Station Verath 7 is suspended. He is expelled from the academy and banned from all galactic educational institutions. Vorth's face went pale. His lawyers began shouting objections. Security officers moved forward to escort him from the chamber. As he passed Mira, he stopped. His eyes were full of rage and hate. This is not over, he hissed. My family will destroy everything you care about. Earth will never be accepted. You have made a powerful enemy. Mira looked at him calmly. You still do not understand. You hurt me. That means you are not my problem anymore. You are your own problem now. She turned away. Behind her, Instructor Thane stood with 40 students from 12 different species. They had come to support her. They had come to stand with her. Vorth was led away. His threats echoed in the empty hallway. But no one was listening anymore. 6 months had passed since the tribunal. Station Vareth 7 had changed in ways no one had expected. The human medical ships never left. They had established a permanent clinic near the academy, a white building with the red symbols that now everyone recognized. Any species could walk through those doors and receive treatment for free. The doctors asked no questions about politics or status. They simply healed. At first, only the desperate came, beings from minor species who could not afford proper care. Students with injuries they were too afraid to report. But word spread quickly. Human medicine worked. Human doctors cared. Soon the clinic was treating hundreds of patients every day. Alien physicians came to study. They watched the human doctors work and took notes with shaking hands. The techniques they learned would save millions of lives across the galaxy. A simple gift from a species everyone had called primitive. The academy itself had transformed. The old order, where powerful species dominated and weak species suffered in silence, was crumbling. Students who had once been afraid to speak now raised their voices. Groups formed across species lines, supporting each other, learning from each other, growing together. Mira Chen walked through the academy grounds on a warm afternoon. Artificial sunlight filtered through the crystal towers. Students nodded to her as she passed. Some smiled, some waved. She was no longer the lonely outsider eating alone in the corner. Liz walked beside her. The small Quillari had grown more confident in recent months. She no longer flinched when larger beings passed nearby. She no longer apologized for existing. The Corvani Military Academy sent another request, Liz said. They want human medical officers on all their warships. They are offering full partnership status. Mira smiled. Dr. Martinez told me. She is training a special team for deep space operations. That makes 17 species who have opened formal relations with Earth since the tribunal, Liz continued. The Kalari were first, of course, but others are following quickly. Mira nodded. The galaxy was changing its mind about humanity, one small step at a time. Not because humans were strong or powerful, but because they had proven something more important. They had proven they could be trusted. They had proven they would help. Voreth's family had tried to stop it. They had threatened economic sanctions against any species that allied with Earth. But their threats rang hollow now. Too many beings had seen the footage of the attack. Too many had watched Mira's speech. Too many had visited the human clinic and received help without being asked for anything in return. One by one, the other noble families distanced themselves from the Callus clan. Power was shifting, and those who held it knew better than to stand against the current. Instructor Thane met Mira outside the administrative building. The old Corvani soldier looked tired but satisfied. His scales had turned a lighter shade of gray, something that happened when his species felt at peace. The Academy Council has made their decision, he said. They are offering you early admission to the command track. It is the highest honor we can give to a student. Mira felt her heart skip. The command track was for future leaders, admirals, diplomats, those who would shape the galaxy's future. No human had ever been considered for it before. I do not know what to say, she admitted. Say yes, Thane replied. You have earned it. Not with your fists or your weapons, but with something more important. You showed them what courage looks like. You showed them what mercy looks like. You showed them what humanity can be. Mira accepted the honor. The ceremony was held in the same chamber where the tribunal had taken place. This time the seats were filled with beings who cheered instead of judged. This time Mira walked to the center of the room with her head held high. The Chief Justice herself placed the command track symbol on Mira's uniform. The galaxy is vast, the ancient Morvalon said. It needs leaders who understand that true strength is not about domination. It is about lifting others up. You have taught us that lesson, Mira Chen. Do not let us forget it. That night there was a celebration. Music from a dozen worlds filled the academy halls. Students danced and laughed and told stories. Species that had never spoken to each other found common ground over shared food and drink. Mira stood on a balcony overlooking the party. The stars stretched out before her, endless points of light in the darkness. Each one was a sun. Each sun might have planets. Each planet might have beings who were struggling, just like she had struggled. Dr. Martinez found her there. The human doctor had finally allowed herself to rest. There were shadows under her eyes, but her smile was genuine. "You did something remarkable," Sarah said. "You know that, right?" Mira shook her head. "I just refused to quit. That is not remarkable. That is just being human." Sarah laughed softly. "That is exactly what makes it remarkable. Most species would have given up. Most would have accepted their place in the hierarchy. But humans never learned how to do that. We spent too many centuries fighting against impossible odds. Giving up is simply not in our programming." They stood in comfortable silence for a while. "What happens next?" Mira finally asked. "Whatever you want," Sarah replied. "You have opened doors that were locked for centuries. How you walk through them is up to you." The next morning, a new shuttle arrived at Station Vareth 7. Among the passengers was a young human, barely 16 years old. She stepped off the shuttle with wide eyes and a nervous grip on her bag. She looked exactly how Mira had looked on her first day, small, scared, and completely out of place. Mira was waiting at the dock. The young girl spotted her and froze. Everyone in the galaxy knew Mira Chen's face now. Meeting her in person was overwhelming. Mira walked over and smiled warmly. "Welcome to the Academy. I am Mira." "I know," the girl stammered. "Everyone knows. You are the one who stood up to the tribunal. You are the one who changed everything." Mira shook her head. "I did not change anything alone. I had help. Friends who stood by me, doctors who saved my life, an instructor who fought for justice." She put a gentle hand on the girl's shoulder. "Now you are here, and if you need help, you will have it too." The girl's eyes filled with tears. "They told me it would be hard. They told me the other species would look down on us. They told me I might not survive." "They were right," Mira said honestly. "It will be hard. Some beings will underestimate you. Some will try to break you. But you are human. We do not break. We adapt. We grow. We rise." She stepped back and gestured toward the Academy's shining towers. "Come on, let me show you around. This place can feel lonely at first, but it does not have to stay that way." They walked together through the gates. Behind them, the stars continued their endless dance. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were living their lives, facing their own struggles, fighting their own battles. And now they knew something they had not known before. They knew that humans were not weak. They knew that humans did not give up. They knew that if they ever needed help, if they ever felt alone, if they ever thought the galaxy had forgotten them, there was a small blue planet that would answer their call. Because that is what humans do. They survive, they heal, they help, and they never ever stay down.